Well, hello guys. Got a good question today via email, and Arnold Schmidt, a longtime fan and customer of Wampler Pedals, asked me a question that I actually get quite a bit, and I really wanted to kind of dive down into this with a little bit more detail than what I've seen other people kind of answer the same question about, because it's one, it's fascinating to me. I think it'll be fascinating to you too, and I think it'll also help you people who, those who hear a gear demo and say, why is it that I am using the impulse response like he is, I'm using the amp or whatever like he is, or I'm using the two notes like the reviewer is. Why don't I sound like him? What am I doing wrong? So I'm going to show exactly what I did on the fuzz video. What was it called? I think it was called Fun with Fuzz or something like that. I showed using the fuzz pedal with an overdrive, basically. So anyways, let's jump right into what Arnold has to say. Okie dokie. So Arnold does say, he emailed me first and said, hey, how's it going? I watch your videos and I saw that you've been using the Captor a lot recently. Your fuzz video, you also mentioned that you use Celestion IRs, impulse responses, blended. Would you please be so kind and tell me the following? From the Captor, into which audio interface do you go? Which DAW do you use? Which IR loader do you use? Which specific IRs do you use? How have you set them to blend? If it's not asking too much, could you send me a screenshot of your cab mix and your IR loader? Lastly, and probably most importantly, what kind of post-processing do you do on your guitar track for your videos? To be really honest, I thought, wow, this is kind of an odd question. Why is this guy asking me all this stuff? Like, what? Why? What did I do something wrong? What problem are you experiencing? And so I just asked him, like, okay, but tell me some backstory here. What's going on? And he said, well, I just want this for my own personal information. As I'm still learning all about the use of impulse responses and making them sound good, I think people who have much success with this, like you, well, thank you, Arnold, would be the best place to ask for help. Brian, having listened to your podcast, thank you again for that. I communicated with you about my various Wampler pedals over the years, thank you again for that. And having met you personally numerous times at NAMM and the Amp Pedal Show in LA, I'm very sorry about that. I know it was quite a disappointment. I'm not as cool in real life as I seem like on screen. I also get the impression that you are a generally nice guy who really cares. Well, thank you. I try. Which is pretty rare these days. I agree. There's a lot of jerks around. Unfortunately, and especially some of them do business, which is just... Anyways, another video off of that. Having said that, it goes a little deeper though. I'm also immensely frustrated with many YouTube demo videos. I use Pete Thorns as an example, and I love Pete, as an example of what leads to much frustration. During his otherwise excellent demo, he always, every single time, leaves out crucial information that renders his fantastic videos useless for any serious learning purposes. For example, the famed impulse response video that he does not go into any detail about how the IRs are actually used, blended, and post-processed. As a listener who wants to learn, that is frustrating. Similar to pedal demos from other people where one never hears the clean signal. Secondly, I have a Suhr reactive load, a bunch of Celestion IRs, Ownhammer IRs, etc., and I can never get sounds anywhere close to what a lot of other people are getting. Now, I have come to the conclusion that A, I'm missing some crucial info, hence my questions to you below, or B, I have some kind of impedance mismatch between my my Suhr and my interface, even though John Suhr said everything should be fine, or C, something is wrong with my reactive load. In your other videos, I observed that at one point you used the Sapphire Pro interface and Logic X Pro. Yes, I do, still do. I also saw in your IR demo that you put the guitar on 3 tracks and applied different IRs to each track. Sometimes, depending what I'm going for. If it's a real simple video, there's been times where I've just used like one impulse response, especially if I'm under a heavy workload week and I don't have a whole lot of time and it's not like something that's super sound sensitive. But yeah, on the fuzz track, I think I actually used 4 of them. In that video, I was then wondering, what IR loader is Brian using? He says in that video, meaning the fuzz video. Did he copy the guitar track on 2 more tracks to get 3? Why did he do that? Why did he not just load 3 IRs into Wall of Sound, which is like a 2-note software program, and do the IR blending there on 1 track? Are the guitar tracks mono? If yes, did Brian put a mono or stereo IR on the room mic track, and so on? Anyways, Brian, every piece of the chain is important to get great tone, and I would greatly appreciate the help. Arnold, those are fantastic questions. And to me, it's one of those things that's, I would put it this way, I share the sentiment. I myself am frustrated. In fact, there's been times, before I did that video, I was texting Robert Baker, who has a great channel, so make sure, if you like shredding stuff, check out his channel. But I was emailing or texting him, and I'm like, why does yours guitar sound so huge? Because I was doing that backing track, and I just couldn't get the sound quite polished enough. It sounded like I was, recording on some 4-track somewhere. I just couldn't get the sound right. And he gave me a little bit of tips on what he does with post-production. A lot of it was like with bass and bottom end and where frequencies are shifted for songs. I'm not very good at mastering at all. Mastering as far as, like in audio engineering. I would love to, and I think there are guys that are great at it. I also was talking to Travis Feaster about it because, I've listened to some of the songs that he has put out, and they just sound gigantic. And so I'm asking, how are you doing that? What are you doing? And he told me that he paid some guy that was really good to master it for him, and that's how it got sounding that way. But anyways, I'll show you my process of what I did. So, all right, here we go. First of all, it's important to note, I was using the Bravado head, and I was just going into this captor. I was running through the cabinet, but this is still in the same place. If you look at the video, there's no mic in that. That was all impulse response sound that you heard in that fuzz video. So basically, I'm just going out the back of well, that's hooked up to an orange right now, but that doesn't matter. I was hooked up to this. So the sound comes from the back of this amp into that for the speakers, to load the speakers. And then I do run a little bit of sound to the cabinet, but all the sound actually comes from this little doohickey right here, which plugs in. You can see how that powers it and gives it sound. And yes, it is in mono. And then it goes all the way into this guy, into channel 1. It goes into channel 1, goes into my DAW. So I have 4 different tracks here. We have front ribbon, so that's a mic on the front of a cabinet. Another mic on the front of the cabinet. The back of a cabinet mic. These are all impulse responses. And a room. So what I'm going to do, this little bar here just means it's going to play the clean part and a little part of the fuzz. Just rather than the whole clip and it be like a 45-minute long video with the same 7 minutes replaying over, I just took a small little clip so you can hear what each one is doing. So let's look at this first front ribbon here. I'm using Space Designer. I don't use the 2 notes because the blending thing, I never really could get it to work very good for what I do. I tried to go online and find some help stuff, and honestly I just resorted to using this because it was easier, and time is I don't have a lot of time, so this was easier and quicker for me. Yes, I do record to just one track, and then I copy and paste the whole thing onto other tracks. Why? Because with one input, I can't record on the same input on multiple tracks, and I'm not a master of Logic Pro, so I'm sure there's some way I could like bus it over here and then import it into something else. It was just so much easier for me to like copy paste onto 4 of the tracks. It's way quicker. And I set up a template so with different IRs, so it's just kind of a shortcut for me. So anyways, on this first track, we're using it's a G. So these are all Celestions. G12 35, 212 cabinet, Royer 121 mic. The dark Celestion, so it means it's moved off of the cone a little bit. So that's one mic on one front cabinet. You'll see there's 2 Space Designers. I'm also running a spring reverb convolution. It's like an impulse response of a reverb tank, really. So running a cabinet impulse response, then a reverb on top of that of an actual spring tank. And then the second ribbon, or second front mic, I am using Celestion Classic Lead 412 cabinet, SM57. That's balanced. I don't know what that means in relation to where it's at on the cone, but that's what the impulse response is called. I got a little bit of reverb on this one. Same thing, just a touch. You can see I don't have a whole lot. The back cabinet, I have G12H Creamback 212 cabinet, with the 57, mic'd with the 57 from the rear. Again, this is impulse response. And everything's all phase corrected with Celestion stuff, which is one of the reasons why I love it. You don't have to mess with any phasing issues at all. It's fantastic. So that's the back mic, and then a little bit of a room mic. So that room is a G1235 212 cabinet. It's room stereo. It's stereo. So it's stereo mic'd to get that impulse. And that's the whole thing. You can see the levels. Let's see. This one, negative 6.2, negative 7.2. So I'm bumped up a little bit, or I'm sorry, I'm bumped down a little bit, negative 9, and then 15.2 for the room. So just a little bit of room. If you put too much room in it, it ends up sounding like you have just the camera mic set up in the room. It's kind of what it sounds like. So I just like a little bit of that mixed in to give it some realness, so it just doesn't sound like you threw a 57 in front of a cabinet. And so let's go ahead and play the front ribbon here. And let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so that, and you can see the pans too. So 20%, 14% to the left. So those two front mics are kind of panned just a little bit. So you're hearing a little bit of different mic in each one, just a little bit. Now let's listen to that back mic by itself. Lastly, the room mic. As you're hearing these sound samples, I'm going to normalize them so it's all the same volume pretty much, so you can hear it a little better. For example, you would, if I didn't do that, you would barely hear this room mic. Okay, so let's listen to what all the impulse responses sound like, all mixed in together the way I did exactly on the video. Let's listen to that right now. And there you go. That was everything all put in together, just the way I did on the video. All right. So Arnold and everyone else who may be interested, as far as like post-processing, I really don't do any EQing at all, unless if I happen to be miking like here, for example. Sometimes, especially depending on the cabinet, then the room and the day, apparently, because it's always different. Sometimes it's too boomy. So sometimes I have to actually put a high pass filter in there and kind of kick out, I don't know, maybe take out 60 hertz, 70, maybe 60 or 70 down or so. So it's just not too boomy. If you don't, then if someone's listening on a decent pair of speakers, and you just hear this thunderous bass, and that's not realistic to what a guitar cabinet's doing at all. It's just that MXL ribbon mic or whatever. With the impulse responses, I don't really need to. I don't really EQ much at all. There's been a few times I've written some stuff, and I may EQ a little bit there more. just because I want it to fit in the mix, because you got the bottom end, you got the stuff, different things going on. So I may have this guitar kind of in this space and this guitar kind of in this space. I really would rather get that done with use of different speaker types or different impulse response types or different pedal types or amp types. So that's the way I would prefer to do that, honestly. But again, I'm not very good at like mastering a song, so I'm sure there's way better ways to do it. As far as gear demos, I'm not a fan of taking like the sound that's supposed to be like what you hear in the room and manipulating it like crazy so it sounds like something it's not. That's kind of, what's the saying they have here? I think it's like putting a lipstick on a pig, I think is the saying that they have here in Martinsville, Indiana. So anyways, Arnold and folks out there who this might help. I hope that answers some questions for you. I hope it kind of gave you some insight into what I'm doing. I can't speak for Pete. I don't know exactly how he has everything mixed, but I'm sure the process is probably something like that. Maybe, I don't know if he does any post-mastering or post-EQing or anything like that. I'm not real sure. Just ask him, honestly. He's a super sweet guy. Me, myself, I'm not really big into that. I do like using, like I said, to say the same thing twice, I guess. I do like using different impulse responses to get the sound that I feel sounds more like what I'm trying to achieve is I'm trying to get the sound of the amp that I'm hearing in the room as close as possible for you people who are watching the video. That's always my goal. So I may not always use the same speaker type on everything, but it's just always an attempt to get the most accurate sound I can. I've got all the Celestion plugins. I've got a bunch of, I don't really have any own hammers. I have a bunch from Rosin Audio and the Celestion stuff, and I've been contemplating getting some own hammers. I don't know, I might. I'm really happy with the Celestion stuff right now though. Anyways, hope this helped you guys. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you comment below. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And see you in a couple days with another that's easy for me to say. I'll see you guys and gals in a couple days with a new video. And we'll see you later. Bye.